Who will be playing second base for the Cleveland Guardians in 2025? Are they done this offseason? What's the rotation look like? Do the Guardians have any chance at signing Roki Sasaki? All of your questions answered on a mailbag episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase.
We're emptying the mailbag for the Friday edition of Locked On Guardians. Got lots of good questions today. Who's going to play second next year? When will it be Travis Bazzana? Are the Guardians making more moves this offseason? What's the rotation look like next year? We had a question on Rule 5. We have questions about Jose's future. Roki Sasaki. Someone asked about Austin Peterson. Jeff and I love Austin Peterson, so we're always happy to take that question. So all that coming up on today's Locked On Guardians, Jeff.
Yes, but first time, Jeff Ellis, one of your two co-hosts, one of the OG hosts when it comes to Locked On Baseball. For that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scouting 24/7.
I'm Justin Ladd, other co-host. I joined Jeff in October of 2022 here. Before that, I was the editor-in-chief of Guardians Baseball Insider. I've been covering the Guardians minor league system all the way back to 2007 when I used to interview guys like Bo Mills, Adam Davis. I think what other pitchers I might have interviewed back then.
I was going to say pitchers. I remember interviewing Daniel Salters. That's one that comes to mind.
Oh, yeah. Salters was a big name way back when.
Yeah.
Preston Guillemette, Brock.
Oh, I remember Guillemette.
Brett Brock, not Brad Brock, the reliever, but Brett Brock, his brother. Jason Knapp. Yeah, it goes way back. So I've been doing that since 2007. Currently at Prospects Live, next year in Cleveland, the Morning Journal, and the News Herald, covering all things prospects and Guardians baseball stuff. All right, mailbag time, Jeff. Let's start real quickly with an interesting one that kind of caught my interest from former IBI writer, actually, Michael Moore.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Michael.
Yeah, we're showing some bias here. No, it was a question though. He said don't devote a lot of time to it, but he wanted to know, does the Juan Soto signing help Cleveland pull off the Gimenez trade? Because if Juan Soto does go to Toronto, which didn't seem likely, but if he did, pretty good chance that Toronto's not interested in Andres Gimenez, right? Because that's a lot of more money to take on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people may not like this. You probably could have gotten this trade done without Gimenez, conceivably. Like they needed an infielder, right? They were willing to shop Horowitz, and Cleveland found. And I'll point this out. Like you and I discussed how the fact is that like Spencer Horowitz and Jake Berger do completely different things, but yet they're both productive, and first base production is down in baseball in general. There was probably a way to get him out of there and keep Gimenez, which is not what people maybe want to hear. But I do think, again, the part of it is no one pays for defense. There is no one who has, basically weighted run Skirto pluses 2 years in a row under 100 who isn't over the hill getting paid like he's going to in 3 years. So I think maybe it makes it so you can't trade Gimenez, but I think you could have still probably figured out a way to get Horowitz out of there. But it would have cost you someone else who's gonna maybe a reliever. They might need that. That might have cost you a Gaddis or something like that, maybe more. But yeah, I think there might have been a way to work it out.
Yeah, there could have been for sure, and they could have. They did. We know they did it to offload the money. We know they did. There's no way around that. Yeah. We know they offloaded the money because they wanted to get from another contract. I don't think there's any way around that explanation. All right, let's talk about who is going to play second base next year. Connor Jackson, former, not the Connor Jackson played for the Diamondbacks. I was a big fan of Connor Jackson back in the day.
Guardians drafted him out of high school.
That's right, they did. Gosh, so this is not the same one, I'm assuming. Who is the second base in 2025? How realistic the Bazzana is coming up this year? Feels like he could bring the energy, and come summer, and the team really needs it. I don't think Bazzana is going to start the year with the team, but I think it's pretty realistic that he is going to have a chance to force them to bring him up. I don't see, if he's kicking butt in the minors by June or July, the only thing that's going to hold them back, we know what it's going to be, right, Jeff? It's going to be the rookie status and whether or not in 2026 they can have the prospect promotion incentive pick. I think that's the only question. I think he'll take off next year, and it's going to be a real question about whether or not when they want to call him up and if they want to preserve the prospect rookie status for 2026, or can they just get the extension done? I don't know. That's the other piece of it, I think.
Can I make a surprising statement? Forget, I kind of want to say asset, but I don't know if that's family friendly.
No.
So I'll say forget it. Forget the pick. Like, don't care about the pick. Sign him to a contract, lock him up. I love the draft. That's why I think it's a surprise. I would much rather, this team has never had the first overall pick. The second overall pick has been a bit shaky, but they haven't had a high pick all that recently when it's gotten easier to evaluate these guys. We know it is easier than ever due to advanced data to kind of evaluate, likelihood of players. So I think lock him up, and then you don't have to worry about when you call him up. You don't have to worry about, the idea of we're going to try to get a draft pick. We want to get an extra year of eligibility. You don't have to worry about threading any needles. Hey, you just cleared some cap space. I wish there was a cap. We just cleared some salary for the next, 5 years. Go offer Bazzana a similar contract to what you give Gimenez, because if you took him first overall, he's definitely, give him the Churio deal. Go give that deal out. It's just get it done. If you believe in him,
what does Bazzana want? Bazzana want in a pre-debut, pre-arb deal? That's the real question. What is it going to take to sign him?
But yeah, I agree with you in general. I think right now, and I don't think it's an actual possibility, but I think he did want to come here. We should point that out. He took less money to come here. He likes he likes the advanced approach here. He thinks it's a good and the underrated thing we'll talk about with Sasaki again is Cleveland didn't even have anyone at the winter meetings. When I went to the Brewers and I was part of media there, Poins was the only person there, and they had a random stringer from MLB.com. The media here is chill as heck. If you want to just play baseball and not worry about the rest, come to Cleveland. That's
what I said. Use Jose as the pitch man for it.
Yeah, that's how it is. But so it depends on those things. But I think your initial thing is kind of the correct one, which is probably in August when you are guaranteed that he's not going to lose his status. Gives you a chance to showcase him.
September, honestly.
Or yeah, probably September. They get to showcase him, which means raising his overall profile. So the next year he's more likely to win that Rookie of the Year and get you an award.
I guess that is the proper way of showcasing. Yeah, you're not. He's the number one overall pick, so he should have. Rookie of the Year cachet. So I don't think you got to do that.
People tend to I don't know. It's once a guy's drafted, it's they disappear into the fold for a while, and I don't know. People.
I just
focus on the power.
Use the word showcase. Let's be honest. No, I don't like the word showcase.
I know that's why
we had some other questions about the second base too, so we're kind of gonna lump these in together. Anthony Castino said, "Who wins the second base spot for next year?" And then they used your favorite term, Jeff. Your favorite phrase: "Is there a world where Cleveland calls up 3 of their top 5 prospects next year in Bazzana, DeLauder, and Henao?" Henao is going to be a no. He will not be up next year.
I can't see.
I think it would be a disappointment if we get to September 2025 and DeLauder and Bazzana are not in the lineup.
I don't know if I'd go so far with Bazzana because we still got a lot to see. There's a lot of ways that could. There's a good chance if it happens, it's because something didn't go right, or there was a health issue, or they're just
right. So it'd be disappointing.
Again, being the Kings a slow play, sometimes they are the slowest team. But with DeLauder in particular, if he is not up, then that means we had another significant injury again. And I just at that point, you're kind of what do you even do with this guy? He's.
Well, that's why I said it's a disappointment if they're both not in the lineup by then, because that means things didn't go well for either of them, and that means DeLauder probably got hurt, or one of the two of them got hurt. But Henao is definitely a no. I'm gonna say Juan Brito is your opening day second baseman. That would be kind of surprising considering he's a rookie. Maybe it's gonna be Angel Martinez, but I don't know. I think they like Juan Brito a lot, and I don't see why you would send him back to AAA for a whole another year. I'm sure they'll have a competition in spring training. And I guess we shouldn't discount Gabby Arias, but Gabby Arias never looked comfortable at second base. Like, he just looks like a guy who can figure out shortstop, and that's about it. And Rocchio is not being moved off shortstop, so I don't know. Although Arias is a really great defender, you could get a lot of good defense out of him at second base and keeping Rocchio short.
Could
Now,
you get
this
to
is this is a Med and Gimenez all over again. Ideally, it should be Arias at short and Rocchio at second, but they're not going to do that. But I don't know. Maybe there's a chance all three. I think all three have a legitimate chance. I guess I'll say Brito for now, but I'm kind of thinking now I'm not going to discount Arias because they've waited around for him this long. Are they going to give him one last chance?
Can Gabby Arias produce a 95 weighted runs created plus or a 90?
I always want to say yes, but man,
I mean, he did the one time he got an extended look, right? He produced a 110 that year versus righties.
Right-handers. Not against lefties. I don't know.
And then can he be 90%?
I guess I won't be shocked if they give him another chance.
Yeah, but with his defensive, I'm just going to put out there what I'm hinting at. It's like with his defensive upside and ability, he could be 90% of Gimenez defensively with the same bat while making league minimum. Like you could have mini Gimenez honestly already on this lineup.
How long is his leash next year in 2025? Let's say Arias is the opening day second baseman. How long is his leash at this point? Because he's out of options. You've given him multiple chances. I know
you've only given him one real look, one real extended look. Otherwise, he's been a backup who doesn't. Like you haven't given him a role and been like, you are our everyday player, except for when they traded Ahmed. And so like
and that was
I will say this,
staff.
And the last time they had a young shortstop who played another position, who they gave that role to when they traded their shortstop, who then struggled and then came back up, was Jose Ramirez. I'm not saying it's Jose Ramirez. I'm not saying it all, but like
right.
Jose replaced Asdrubal. He was the guy who came up and played that position, and then the next year he struggled, got sent to the minors for the entire year, just like Arias, and then came back up in a part-time role and eventually became we know he has the tools to be an everyday player. So I'm just saying,
Jose was out of options too at that time.
Yes. There is a world where all of a sudden Gabby turns himself not into Jose. I am definitely not saying that on record. No, not Jose. But could he turn himself into a 3-WAR player just like Andres? Absolutely. Could he be 90% of the defender? Absolutely. Could he won't be, and the nice thing, he's not a slap singles hitter.
Probably won't run the bases as well.
No, nowhere near as well. You're losing the speed and you're losing the higher tier of defense because
savvy.
I mean, when I die, Gimenez is probably going to be one of the 5 best defenders I saw in baseball. So,
which again goes back to his value. Like, is his defense just so good that was made the contract worth it?
It's a debate for another day. It's hard to say.
It really is. All right, we have a lot of questions about whether or not the Guardians are going to do anything else this offseason, what the rotation might look like in 2025. Got some Rule 5 questions. We've got some questions about Jose Ramirez's future. We got questions about Roki Sasaki. We're going to answer them all before we get out of here. I promise. Lots of events coming up this time of year. Honestly, like I always talk about this. My wife and I love getting each other event kind of or experience type gifts for the holidays, for birthdays. Gametime is an awesome way to do that. I did that last year. So last year we went to the Kelsey Brothers bobblehead game at the Cavs game. I got those tickets for her for Christmas through Gametime because Gametime has the Gametime picks, where it's going to show you what the best deals are for that event. So you don't got to go searching through thousands of tickets. It's going to tell you exactly the kind of deal you're getting on the tickets. So you know if you're getting a good deal, if you can find something else. The super deal as well. They can tell you different tiers of deals for the tickets based on location of the event and price, all that kind of stuff. And I always talk about one of my favorite app features is the all-in pricing. There is no surprises. You turn the all-in pricing option on Gametime, and it tells you exactly what you're paying for the event. So the ticket doesn't say $99 and you get the checkout and it's like, well, now it's $120. What happened? Nope. You turn that on, you know exactly what it's going to take to get you through the doors for your event. They've got, I was looking through the app today. They've got stuff for Christmas shows like theater. They definitely have sports covered. We know that. They got concerts, everything you could want on Gametime. And if you kind of want to wait till the last minute, we know that prices go down closer to the event starting. Gametime is going to give you a good view of those prices right up until the event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use their code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. So go ahead and create the account. Terms apply. Redeem our code LOCKEDONMLB. Get $20 off your very first purchase on Gametime. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It is game time. All right, let's start with a combo of questions in this segment, Jeff. So we had multiple people asking about this. We had one of our, everydayers, CatBB. I can never get the handle right on that one, but I know he is an everydayer and was asking about whether or not the Guardians are done for the offseason. I know one of our everydayers, the Blue Cat Warrior, also wants to know if they're going to bring back Lane Thomas before it's too late in terms of an extension possibly. Everydayer Pat Bittinger also wanted to know if they're going to make any more moves this month. So, and also our buddy Chuck wants to know if the Guardians are going to bring in one more starter this offseason. So everybody wants to know, are they going to do more? Jaxables said, who do you want to see them add before opening day through free agency or trade? And then someone also asked, who are some young targets in free agency you'd like for them to go after? And then said, does Arias get a shot at second base? We just talked about that. So I think first and foremost, Jeff, are the Guardians done this offseason?
I don't think so. We talked about with Chris AI Tonetti, like the one thing the AI got right with him is how evasive he is. Like he is a slippery eel. Let's put it that way. That dude is hard to nail down. And he specifically talked about reinvesting that money. He volunteered that information. So I know people, Justin pointed out that someone was like the weird, we get called shills sometimes that, people think if they don't reinvest that money, we're going to say stuff because they said they are going to. So the expectation is that it's going to happen. I said tomorrow, I'm going to sit there and listen to that phone conference. If no one asks, I'm going to ask is when you talked about the ability to reinvest money, is that signing Shane Bieber or is that additional funds for this team? I'm going to phrase it that way so we can get some direct information, but I don't think they're done. And I also want to point out someone I know in our comments put in, so I went and dug it out. I don't know if it's Rosenthal just trying to get more. Heyman, sorry, not Rosenthal. Heyman being a bit of a mouthpiece because we know he's a mouthpiece. But he talked about the Guardians being, at least contacting Manea and Teoscar. And it's that was after they signed Bieber. They were still at least. So there is a world where that the reason Andres got moved was maybe to make a bigger move. I don't think it'd be for either of those guys. I think they're kicking the tires to see if costs are changing. But, just because of, again, draft pick loss, it would be their comp B pick, which is, that's a tradable pick. It has some value. You hate to give it away. But I think there's definitely a place where it may not happen this month. But we know they'll have to wait in the weeds, and I would not be surprised to see them wait in the weeds and pounce after the market shifts, after teams have paid their money, after the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers have kind of moved off, and players a little more desperate, and there's not as much, all of a sudden the supply is there with a lot less demand.
Yeah, they could definitely wait and see what falls into their lap. I don't really know if I see a free agent out there that makes a ton of sense for them. I mean, Jock Peterson's still out there. I'd love to see them get Jock Peterson. I don't see it happening.
They'd have to trade Naylor.
Would they though? Why couldn't he DH?
Then what are you doing with Manzardo? You can't send him back to AAA.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. No. And Jock Peterson really is a statue in the outfield at this point. So yeah, I guess you are stuck if you're not trading Josh Naylor. I don't know. I think we both thought that's a trade of Josh Naylor is less likely now.
Yes,
that was one of our questions too. We already addressed that yesterday's show.
Hey, is there a crazy world where you trade Manzardo? Because he definitely would have a lot more value. I don't know what you're looking for, or how you go about it. If you believe in a K-Fist, I guess I wouldn't either. But it's if they really believe in K-Fist and they want to go out and make a trade,
I think desperate. More likely use K-Fist in a trade. If
anything, I know. I'm just stirring. I agree with you. I'm just stirring.
I don't know if I see a major move at this point. The rest of the offseason, we keep saying, I think maybe they'll try to add a veteran type starter, in terms of a non-roster invitee. I was looking, we talked about Griffin Canning a few weeks ago, right? And I was looking at his page again. He's out of options. So kind of think that maybe Griffin Canning may no longer be a good fit because I think they're going to want to grab somebody that has a chance that might be okay starting the year in AAA, but also in AAA now
He
you
might end up being a camp invite guy.
Griffin Canning, and if that's true, then I think that's a worthwhile ad. I mean, you and I both said they should go and sign Patrick Sandoval and help him finish his rehab, but that's not a move that's going to impact you in 2025 at this point. I mean, they'll invite some non-roster relievers. They always do that.
Can I throw a crazy one at you?
I think they need to, I would like to see them go and I don't know what's in the outfield right now in terms of free agent. I have to go back and look because Tauchman's off the board and I liked him. I think they need competition in right field for Brennan and Noel. If you're gonna play Lane Thomas in center, because I hate to say it, I don't think Brennan is a guy you can run out and give 300 at bats to next year anymore. And I know everyone's gonna say they're gonna say they want to keep it open for DeLauder. You can do and again, this didn't work for them a couple years ago, so I know it's sketchy to do so, but they could do the Eddie Rosario type move, and if it doesn't work out, you bring up DeLauder if he's healthy, and if not, you're banking on some veteran to figure it out, or a Trot Nixon. I don't know. I mean, I'd rather do that than nothing. I'd rather go and sign somebody to play right field with Noel and Brennan and make it so. I mean, I think Noel's going to get that extra option, so he can go back to AAA possibly.
Yeah, he's getting it. More or less had that confirmed.
I would rather have a veteran come in and compete in right field, so you're not just hoping that DeLauder comes in as the savior, because you just can't trust Brennan at this point, and I still don't trust Noel. So I think that's a move they should make, whether it's a free. I mean, Taylor Ward. I still want them to. I want to see him get Taylor Ward. And the extensions don't count to me because the extensions aren't going to happen until spring training. They don't talk extension until spring training. Like we had Blue Cat Warrior wanting to know about Lane Thomas. I don't see a Lane Thomas extension coming.
No.
But I think a trade for an outfielder should be on their list at this point. And the extension I think those are two things. Does the extension count as, will they do more before spring training? I don't think it does, because I think whatever you're paying whoever in an extension this spring is inconsequential for what they're going to make in 2025. But I still think they should go and find a right fielder.
Can I throw a name we've never talked about at all on this show? Gleyber Torres.
To do what? Play second?
Be the second baseman. If you do a 2-year contract, then he becomes a flippable asset potentially. He's only had his worst year as a 96 WRC plus. He was listed nobody knows anything. Bazzana? Well, he's the bridge.
Force his way up.
Well,
I don't see it because they've invested. They made the trade for Brito. They like Martinez. I don't
I'm just throwing some names out there. It's more the having the fun with it all.
Can we also point this out too? This wasn't a question from somebody, but I was thinking about this today. You and I both don't see a Quan extension at this point coming.
No.
Can we also say some people might say, well, put Quan in center and move Thomas to right and put Bazzana in left. I think Stephen Kwan is not going to play center field for this team unless they absolutely have to.
Yes.
Because of arbitration. He is not going to play center field because if he goes to center field and hits the way,
it might have brought him down because he wouldn't have gotten the hardware.
Well, not this year, but I think if you put him in center field and he produces offensively and he's any good defensively, even if he's not a hardware guy in center field, he's going to rise in arbitration due to positional costs. So I think that's also out the window too. I think Stephen Kwan remains in left field at this point too. Chuck asked about projecting Parker Messick. We'll talk about the rotation here in a little bit. I do think, I don't know. I don't know about a free agent. Again, I need to look at, I did like Jock Peterson, but he can't play right field. So
no, he's DH only.
That's not going to happen. Yeah.
I still like Hassan Kim, but again, that's like the Bieber situation batting wise. Well, he could play second base. He played second base when he came up. And if Rocchio,
look at outfielders here, just because now I'm curious.
There's not much.
It's not great. It's not great. Really Santander's out there. They're not signing him. Teoscar, if they sign Teoscar Hernandez, then I think everybody needs to forgive them about the Gimenez deal. But I think it's.
And they're more likely to sign like Harrison Bader than Teoscar Hernandez.
I would have no interest in Harrison Bader. I did hear that they are no longer interested in Jesse Winker. Your other options are Alex Verdugo, pass. I like Mark Canha a little bit. I wouldn't be against that. He's kind of
Doesn't
weird.
really move the needle much. Harrison Bader is basically center field Gimenez. Like, I mean,
yeah, there's no good option. I think for me, it's trade for Taylor Ward or just.
Yeah,
I mean, you could do Dylan Carlson, but Dylan Carlson's got to be a minor league invite.
No, yeah, he's shown nothing consistent. I agree. It's almost like Taylor Ward or bust for outfielder. It's there's not even to me that many interesting guys at the back end of the market.
Yeah, I like Tauchman and I like Conforto, and those guys
Tauchman's
are both
gone,
off the
and
board.
Conforto's gone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. All right, we got questions about the Rule 5 draft, the rotation outlook, Jose's future, all kinds of good stuff to come on the rest of a mailbag edition of Locked On Guardians.
So I just got to stop talking about the Blue Jackets. Yesterday, I was like, hey, well, you know what? They beat good teams, and then they struggle against bad teams. Washington Capitals are having a fantastic year. Lost in overtime, I believe, today, 2-1. So I'm just going to be done. I'm sorry to my fellow Blue Jackets fans. I feel like I've been ruining their season by discussing them. You know, last year, I told you to one of our listeners, they made a lot of money on my Edmonton statements. This year, if you're listening to me, you're losing a lot of money on my Blue Jackets ones. But get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets live on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
So the rotation for next year, Jeff, it's Tanner Bybee, it's Luis Ortiz, Ben Lively, it's the king of options, it's Roki Sasaki, right? Obviously, Shane Bieber. That's the rotation for next year, right? I don't see any issues with that.
I'm just gonna keep shaking my head. I mean, listen, I love the idea of it, and I'm letting you all kind of minorly talk me into how it could, but like
Corbin Burns,
Suzuki's not coming to Cleveland. Like people, I want this to come off not negative, but like I really think it's gonna be super negative. Like I go back to Ichiro, like when Ichiro says like as negative things about Cleveland as he did, like every Japanese athlete heard that. Like that, I mean, he just absolutely he went out of his way to crap on Cleveland more than any other city. And I feel like stuff like that matters.
The Jock Peterson thing, yeah, no, I agree with that one. I don't know about, the Sasaki thing. Yeah. I don't know.
He's going to end up still going to he's going to end up in like Houston. He's going to, as much of all this talk is he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go to New York or LA. He's going to end up going on that second tier that is still a big market where he can make his money. He's had health issues. I know we'll get to that later, but it's like he still wants to cash in. Don't think for a second this dude isn't still thinking about cashing in. That's the reason he wanted to come over to begin with.
Yeah. So I think the rotation for next year, though, in all seriousness, is Tanner at the top, and then you've got probably Gavin, and then Lively, Ortiz in some order, and then the rotation to start fills out with McKenzie more than likely because he's out of options, so he needs to be on the roster. Yeah. And in AAA, things look much better coming into 2025 than they did in 2024 because now you're pushing Logan Allen to AAA to figure out his stuff. He's got an option left this year. Joey Cantillo's got an option left this year. He's got major league success now. McKenzie's on that roster. You kept Ryan Webb. So those guys are all down there. Maybe they'll add somebody. Austin Peterson should start the year in AAA. I think. I don't see why he wouldn't. So he's a step away. I would
bet on Hartle getting to AA pretty quickly.
I would agree with that too, because AA right now is kind of iffy. Like if Peterson starts in AA, you've got like
Kennedy's not going to be far behind him either. Like
Kennedy will start. Yeah, they'll both start in Lake County. Lake County's rotation, by the way, just got a ton better. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other night. He's like, "Who's going to pitch in Lake County?" And I'm like, it's going to be rough. Like, you're going to get DeLucia back, and you're going to get maybe if Justin Campbell's healthy, and I'm like, Jackson Humphreys will be there, but he had a rough year last year. But now you got Hartle and Kennedy in Lake County. So now Lake County's pitching staff just got a whole lot more interesting. And Double-A is, Hartle should get Double-A pretty quickly because it's going to be Messick and Wilkinson and Denholm there again. And I don't know. Triple-A is interesting too because Ryan Webb's there, Davenport and Mace are going to be there, and who knows where Daniel Espino is going to be. I don't know. Whatever. But the rotation, at least in terms of depth, is a whole lot better than it used to be. I'm still not seeing a ton of guys with like major upside. Like I don't see a Tanner Bybee coming, although you and I at the start of 2022 didn't see Tanner Bybee coming. It wasn't until June we were like, okay, this is the guy.
There's a small chance of Doughty. He's the one guy I would kind of give because he hasn't pitched very long.
But we think Doughty's like a number 2 at best.
I mean, I think he's like, I think there's a small chance just because not as much the athleticism, the pitch mix, and just not as much experience. He hasn't been pitching that. Like, he is kind of similar to where when I made Taylor the number 1 prospect in system. Like, I mean, Taylor's a much better prospect because Tanner, long week. Tanner, much further along, felt much more confident. Nowhere near his level of concern, but I think he's close to Tanner. I think Doughty's the one kid who you would put like being a little bit close. But again, that's the whole prep ceiling thing, right? Like, but there's no one who has the safety to make it a Tanner situation.
No, you feel better about it because he was in college and you had a little more data and time on him.
He didn't have health.
He doesn't have the health issues. Yeah. And neither does Doughty yet, for all we know, but it's a longer way away. So I hope, Nick, we answered your Austin Peterson question because Jeff and I both love Austin Peterson. We think he's a mid-rotation guy. It's a 4-pitch mix with a lot of control. I think he should start in AAA, and I don't see why he couldn't be. I mean, they might have options ahead of him in 2025, but I don't see why he couldn't be an option for them in 2025 because I think he'll be good enough. So we'll see. Very quickly, I want to get into this. Dennis asked us, how does the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft work? When is someone eligible to be drafted? So to start, the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft is not like the major league portion. So if somebody took Steven Hajar, which I saw some comments on Reddit who were like, why did I say wow? I was trying to be nice on Twitter and not say that Steven Hajar is bad at pitching. He's bad relative to pitchers in pro baseball, not bad in terms of,
he has
pitching in general.
Stuff. He makes Wild King Vaughn look.
He is kind of the epitome of Rick Vaughn. That's why I said wow. I was stunned that because Steven Hajar is now in his 4th organization in 5 years, and he was drafted 5 years ago. So that's pretty crazy, and that's why I said wow. So the minor league portion is in general the same as the major league portion, where if you're a high school player that's been in the system 5 years, you're a college player that's been in the system 4 years, you're eligible. If you haven't made it to AAA or the team hasn't put you on their AAA roster. So if the team has you on the AAA roster, you're protected from the minor league Rule 5 draft. We never get those lists. We never know. They're never public. Or if you haven't made the AAA, you're also, if you're not on the roster, you can be selected. However, the difference is those players don't get returned. So there's no roster rules. So Steven Hajar and Randy LeBau both went to Pittsburgh. They're both gone. They're both on that roster, which is what happened when Cleveland took Eric Sabrowski and Connor Gillespie a couple years ago. They're here forever. There's no rules with them. You don't have to offer them back. There's no money involved.
Pittsburgh needed lefties.
They're just gone.
Because it's just so funny that like Cleveland, they trade Cleveland 2 left-handed pitchers, and then the next day they take 2 left-handed pitchers.
And guys with even less control, and one's a AAA reliever. All right. Yeah. We had a couple questions here from Nate and our buddy T on Blue Sky. They both want to know what's the end game for Jose Ramirez. What's the future look like? When he's going to transition to DH, and who do we have ready to play that position? Is that person in the system already?
He's moving back to second base.
Hire a guardian. Oof, boy, that's even worse than him staying at third base long term. I mean, they're probably not going to pull him off third base until he agrees to it. Like, he's going to play there for better or worse until he's okay with being a full-time DH, which he may never be okay with it. Jose is going to do whatever Jose wants to do for the life of his contract in Cleveland. I think he'll definitely retire here. I don't see him playing somewhere else at this point. I think even if he gets another contract after this one expires, in 2028, I don't see him going somewhere else. I think Jose is a Guardian for life at this point. There's nobody in the organization to take over. Like, there's nobody. Like, Juan Brito isn't a third baseman.
No.
Gabiar, a couple of years ago, I thought when they weren't going to re-sign Jose that Gabiar used to be the third baseman in the future. That's not going to happen now. There's Luis Morejo, who you and I both like, but neither one of us has any idea where he's going to play defensively. And
I don't think he's staying at
20 and low A.
Going to thicken.
I'm going to say that the guy doesn't exist in this, and the guy might be in high school, or he might be a 15-year-old down in the Dominican. I don't know, but he'll probably stay at third base for as long as he feels like it. I don't think Cleveland's ever going to be able to tell him, hey, you have to DH permanently now. He might get more DH at bats, like 2 days a week, but if he wants to play first, or he wants to play third base 5 days a week, he's going to play third base 5 days a week. Like, I don't see that ever happening. We talked about Roki Sasaki. I think Jose should talk to him about how great or how easy it is to live in Cleveland and the track record and what he loves about it here. Cleveland should offer him $5 million in a bonus or $6 million in a bonus because their track record with, outside of Jose and Lindor and the Dominican Republic and Venezuela is rough. Sasaki's a better bet. That is what it is. Rich wanted to know, would a Yan Gomes reunion make sense? They need a third catcher. They do need a third catcher. I'm surprised they didn't go after one in the AAA phase of the draft.
I thought they would as well.
They're gonna go out and have to sign a couple of non-roster invitees at catcher. I don't know who it's gonna be. Probably gonna get a veteran at that spot. But I kind of feel like they're gonna go into the year with just Bo and Austin. Like, I don't think they're gonna try to shoehorn in a third catcher. I think David Fry just works so well. I don't see anybody that exists that makes sense for them on this roster.
Yeah, and like I said,
Gomes is also cooked, by the way. He's done.
Yeah, Gomes is cooked. I also think there's a chance at some point you could see someone like Cody Hoff. Again, he's kind of one of my minor sleepers. It's just good batted ball data on top of what we know is really strong defensive metrics. Like what you want. Mm-hmm. What you want your third catcher to be, he could be.
Here's a good question from Ben. Who do you guys think will be the more valuable player in the next 3 years? Luis Ortiz or Andres Gimenez? Don't consider money, just performance. I mean, Gimenez is a sure bet to win another Gold Glove. Like, I think that if you believe in anything, even if we don't believe
not
in
a sure
offense,
bet, because what's going to happen is he's going to do another headfirst slide into first and break his hand and miss half a year.
Oh, Jeff, why? Oh, Jeff.
He was the king of the headfirst slide. It didn't matter how many times I commented
why are we
on
speaking
it.
that into existence? Why are we?
Because listen, I've been speaking into existence for years because I was afraid it was going to happen. I mean, it's gimme. Like, he's a sure bet. Like, and especially too, like, I guess because War, I don't know, like, it's hard to like, I always tend to default to War, but I also feel like I've kind of been leaning away from War because it just does inflate defensive value so much, like, relative to all things. It's like, it's hard to balance it out, but it is probably still gimme. But at the same time, I would argue then positional value maybe makes it a little bit closer, just because it's easier to find a second baseman than a starter.
Well, here's the thing: if he plays shortstop for Toronto, let's say they don't re-sign Bo Bichette, he moves to shortstop and his defense is still sterling at short, then automatically he becomes the more valuable player because defense at short is going to get more. It's going to be more War, and it's just more valuable. I wouldn't discount Ortiz. I don't know. Gimenez is what is Gimenez's worst year as a full-time starter? Was it a 3-win player?
Was it this year?
I think it was this year. I think this is his worst year. 2.8 wins. I mean, if you don't count 2020 and 2021 when he was a part-time player. I think Gimenez is a safe bet for 3 wins above replacement. I'm looking at FanGraphs for the next 3 years. I think he's safe at 3. He could be a 4 if offense comes back at all. In which case, the Guardians might regret that. If he becomes a 4-WAR player in Toronto, there's a chance they regret this trade. But I do think Ortiz is probably a guy who is going to be right there with him. I think that there's a chance that they see some stuff with him. And if you're going to trust Cleveland on one thing, it's pitching development, and they can work with him. Like, he's already got 3+ fastballs, right? And he throws hard. He's dropped his arm slot the last couple of years, and that's really helped his pitches. He's got a good slider. If they teach him a changeup, like, watch out. I don't know. I could see him throwing 150 to 170 innings and giving them a 4 ERA. That
You're
gets
not
you
wrong.
2.5 free wins.
Good at changeup work. Like, that is one of the pitches they do
are.
do
That's
a
one thing
nice
they
job.
do well. So I do think I think it's going to be pretty close, but give me Gimenez just because I think he'll move to short for Toronto, and there's a chance that he has some better batted ball luck one of those years, and he winds up having a 4-win season, and that's going to make Cleveland look bad. But there's still a chance that both teams win that. Cleveland getting Ortiz and Gimenez going to Toronto. It'd be great to have them both. Let's be honest. It'd be great to have them both. But that's not the reality we live in, as we talked about. And then we had one more from Americ Quan MVP on Twitter. He said that is it more likely we're moving on from Josh Naylor now that we trade Gimenez? We both said that yesterday. I don't think it makes this any more or less
Need
likely.
some stability.
Changes.
I think it makes it less likely.
The clubhouse factor too. Yeah, we said less. The clubhouse factor matters here too. Like, that's 2 guys in the clubhouse who were really important to them. So I don't see them moving Naylor at this point. They'll let that ride out. And if things don't go well in June and this team's not competing, which, good Lord, if they're not, I hate to see what happens, you trade them. And if you're winning, then, you say thanks for your time, Josh, and good luck in free agency. I don't think they're going to re-sign him.
No.
All right. Appreciate everybody's questions. Thank everybody for tuning in this week, whether you were an everyday or whether you're new. I know we might have got a lot of new people this week, thanks to all the news that happened. So we appreciate you guys being here. We are covering the Guardians 5 days a week. That is our network theme. We are here, your team every day. However, the network does allow us a little break around the holidays. So what's going to be happening here is starting next week until about spring training, Jeff and I will be here with you 3 days a week, not 5. More than likely, we're each going to host a solo show, and then we'll do one together. If something big happens, if they sign a free agent, if they trade for Taylor Ward, if they get Roki Sasaki, if they trade, I really Josh
want that
Naylor.
to happen. Think of all the media we would get, like all the attention. Like, yeah. I pray, like, of any free agent, I want them to add Roki Sasaki from a purely mercenary point of view, on top of being a fan, but for our show, yes, let's please.
So if anything like that happens, we will be here if it's a scheduled day for us to record or not. So if anything big happens, you can expect to hear from us. So Monday we'll be back. We will either do Monday morning headlines, and we'll talk about the news from the weekend. We might do one of everyone's favorites, a little position review or something like that. Jeff is going to do a mock draft next week for sure, and we will have trade talk Thursday. But yeah, most likely it'll be.
And go ahead. I just
most likely it'll be us hosting one show together and one show solo each, barring any big news until about spring training.
And I talked to the moderators over at Reddit. At some point, we were going to do the digital version of like an AMA, baseball-wise. I'm going to put a post up there maybe next week or maybe even tomorrow. But we got the approval, so we're gonna go to the Reddit because it's a very popular and large community, and we often go there and look for ideas when we're really struggling. So we know it's a great place to go. So we're gonna set up that situation where people can just put the questions in there, and we're gonna do a Reddit special episode at one point. So yeah, I just wanted to also say we're going to do that.
Yep.
All right, we're going to do it this week, and then they went and made a trade.
Yeah. We'll get over there at some point. Appreciate the moderators over at Reddit letting us enjoy the community and being part of that.
Yep. But yeah. So I also want to apologize to them that I said I'd do it this week and that just didn't happen. But what did happen was a really interesting week and fantastic support from all of you. Really appreciate everyone who is new, who is old. Thank you for joining us, rating, reviewing, doing your part. Leave an iTunes review. It's been a while. And go Guardians, go.